We all know Apple. It's more than a brand. It's practically a religion. It all started in 2007 when one man walked onto a stage and took a device from his pocket that would fundamentally change the course of human history, the iPhone. It made Apple one of the most valuable companies on Earth, a brand that inspires a cult-like following. But what if I told you that just 11 years before that iconic moment, Apple was a joke? Apple was even founded on April Fool's Day in 1976, and by the mid-90s, the company was so close to death, it was literally 90 days from being completely broke. They were struggling just to keep the lights on. This isn't just a story about a company, it's a story of failure, betrayal, deception, and the single greatest comeback in business history. To understand how Apple dominates the tech world today, you have to understand how it almost destroyed itself. Every empire has its founders. For Apple, it was two young Steves, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco and adopted by a working-class couple, Paul and Clara Jobs. He didn't grow up in Silicon Valley. He wasn't a star student. He dropped out of Reed College after just 6 months, but famously hung around to audit classes that actually interested him, like calligraphy. That obsession with fonts and artistic detail would change the world later. Steve Wozniak was the opposite of Jobs. He was an introvert and a pure engineering genius. A prankster who just loved to build things and didn't care much about money or fame. Wozniak could build the impossible, and Jobs could imagine what to do with it, how to package it, and how to sell it. Their first venture? Building illegal blue boxes to make free long-distance phone calls. Jobs and Woz sold approximately $6,000 worth of these devices. You've heard about Jobs as a visionary leader, but according to insiders, he was also a master manipulator. He would take others' ideas and work, polish them, and present them as his own. Let me tell you a story. Jobs found his first legit job at the biggest company in Silicon Valley at the time, Atari. They needed a new arcade game, a single-player version of Pong called Breakout. They gave the project to Jobs, but Jobs didn't know how to build it. He only knew who could. Jobs went to Wozniak. He told him they had a crazy deadline, just 4 days, and that the paycheck was $700. They'd split it 50-50, fair enough, right? So Woz, being Woz, got to work. He barely slept for 4 days straight, living on caffeine. He didn't just deliver, he created a masterpiece of efficiency, using so few chips that Atari's own engineers couldn't believe it. Jobs paid Woz his cut, $350. Woz was happy, a decent payday for a few days of work. But here's the part Jobs left out. Atari was so blown away by Woz's work that they had offered a massive bonus, $5,000. That was a ton of money in the 70s. Jobs cashed the whole check, pocketed the $5,000 bonus, gave Woz his $350, and never said a word. Jobs got all the credit and all the money. Wozniak wouldn't find out about this for another 10 years. When he did, he was devastated, not about the money, but about the betrayal from his best friend. This single story shows you the two Steves in their purest form, the trusting, brilliant engineer and the visionary who would do whatever it took to win. This is the kind of story you won't hear in the mainstream media or in YouTube. If you like such hidden stories, then hit that subscribe button. It takes 3 months of research for this one video. In 1976, Steve Wozniak designed a personal computer board just for fun. But Jobs saw something bigger. He saw a future where everyone had a computer. He convinced Wozniak to start a company. They sold their most valuable possessions, Jobs' VW van and Woz's HP calculator, to fund it. And in his parents' garage in Cupertino, California, Apple Computer was born. They needed a name. Jobs, who had just returned from an apple farm, suggested Apple. It sounded friendly. Their first product, the Apple I, was a flop. It was just a circuit board. You had to build your own case and find your own keyboard. Seriously, it was for hobbyists only. This is where the cracks started to show. Jobs, the marketer, wanted a perfect closed box, a beautiful appliance that no one could mess with. Wozniak, the engineer and true hobbyist, believed in the exact opposite. He wanted it to be open and expandable. This resulted in a legendary fight over the Apple II. Jobs demanded it have only 2 expansion slots, one for a printer, one for a modem. That's all anyone would ever need, he argued. Wozniak fought for 8 expansion slots, and he won. Their second product, the Apple II, was a huge hit. It was the first personal computer for everyday people. It came in a sleek plastic case, had color graphics, and was ready to go right out of the box. It exploded. Apple went from a garage startup to the fastest-growing company in American history. But with rapid growth came chaos. The board decided Steve Jobs, the fiery founder, needed, quote, adult supervision. So Jobs poached John Scully from Pepsi with the legendary pitch, do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world? Scully said yes. But just 2 years later, in 1985, after a brutal power struggle over the direction of the company, the very CEO that Steve Jobs hired fired him. And this is when Apple died, creatively at least. The product line became a chaotic mess with dozens of computers that were confusing even to retailers. Apple became a graveyard of good ideas with terrible execution. The company was changing. It was becoming less about engineering and more about marketing and profit. For Wozniak, the fun was gone. Then, in 1981, a tragic plane crash left him with severe injuries and temporary amnesia.